Most people think enlightenment is a destination, a peak, a reward for those who meditate long enough, suffer deeply enough, renounce fully enough. They imagine it as a final moment, fireworks in the soul, the end of all problems, a blinding light of eternal peace. But that is not enlightenment. That is a fantasy, a projection of the ego pretending it wants to dissolve, while secretly wanting to become divine. Enlightenment is not what you think, because it is not thought at all. It is what remains when thought stops trying to define everything. It is not an achievement. It is a recognition, a shift from illusion to clarity, from identity to presence. It does not look like perfection. It looks like simplicity, like honesty, like presence without tension, action without need, stillness without suppression. The Vedic sages never described enlightenment as an escape from life. They described it as seeing clearly within life. It is not about flying above the world. It is about walking through it awake. Most seekers are looking for a feeling, bliss, ecstasy, permanent inner calm. But feelings change. They come and go. Enlightenment is what watches them come and go, without clinging, without craving. You can have bliss and still be asleep. You can feel peace and still be trapped. You can have visions and insights and powers and still be tangled in ego. Enlightenment is not about becoming more. It's about becoming less reactive, less identified, less attached to who you think you are. It is about subtraction, the falling away of illusion, the quiet undoing of false beliefs, the soft death of the story called me. That's why it feels like nothing at first. No fireworks, no applause, just a stillness you didn't earn, because it was never missing, just a silence that doesn't need your effort. And that's what makes it so difficult to grasp, because the mind wants it to be something big, something impressive, something you can point to and say, "Look what I've attained." But the real thing doesn't inflate you. It empties you. It humbles you. It softens you into seeing that you were never the doer, never the thinker, never the one in control. You were the awareness behind it all. You always were. You just didn't notice because you were too busy becoming someone, too busy chasing, too busy fixing. The moment you stop, truly stop, and become still enough to see what remains when the mind falls silent, you glimpse it, not as an idea, not as a concept, but as you. Enlightenment is not something you get. It's what you are, beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the constant need to improve, evolve, or transcend. You are not here to become enlightened. You are here to remember enlightenment, to uncover it, to relax into it, to stop pretending you are something separate from it. But the ego hates that, because it wants to be enlightened. It wants to own the light, to use it as identity, to feel superior, special, untouchable. So it creates an image, a serene monk, untouched by pain, glowing with calm, unaffected by life. But that too is a mask, a performance, a distraction from what is real. Enlightenment does not make you emotionless. It makes you honest. It does not make you invincible. It makes you undefended. It does not make you better than others. It makes you real, no longer pretending to be anything other than what is. You might cry more. You might laugh more. You might feel everything more fully, because you're no longer hiding. You're no longer managing your experience. You're simply being. And from that being comes clarity. You act when it's time to act. You rest when it's time to rest. You speak when truth moves through you. You fall silent when silence is true. There's no formula, no checklist, no sign that says, "You've arrived," because there is no arrival, just the continuous unfolding of presence into deeper presence. That's why the moment you say, "I am enlightened," you are not. The I who claims it is the illusion. The self that wants to possess awakening is the very thing that obscures it. True realization leaves you empty of claims, empty of need. You don't care to convince anyone. You don't need to shine. You're not trying to teach. You're simply free. Not because you learned the truth, but because you unlearned the lie. Not because you became something new, but because you saw what you always were. That's the paradox. Enlightenment is not a transformation. It is a return to what has always been quietly waiting beneath your effort to become. And in that return, the seeking ends. The struggle softens. The grasping drops. Not because you finally figured it out, but because you realized there was nothing to figure out. Just this. Just now. Just being. Once you begin to see what enlightenment truly is, you stop seeking it like a prize. You stop treating it like the finish line in a spiritual race. You stop using it to fix yourself, because there is nothing broken. There is only forgetting and remembering. Enlightenment is remembering. Remembering what you were before the world told you who to be, before you wore a name, before you built a personality, before you carried trauma as identity and knowledge as armor. It is not a state you enter and stay in forever. It's not some permanent high. It is a way of seeing, clearly, quietly, without distortion. And like the ocean, it moves. Like the breath, it comes and goes. Sometimes you're fully in it, vast, still, untouched. Sometimes you fall back into the dream. The ego returns. The noise grows louder. The grasping resumes. But you know now. You've seen through the veil, and that knowing never fully leaves. The sages were not superhumans. They simply stopped pretending. They stopped adding to themselves. They stopped needing to know everything. And in that stopping, they saw. Saw what? That the one who seeks truth is truth. That the one who longs for peace is peace. Once the longing falls away. You begin to notice the subtle layers of ego trying to perform even awakening, trying to look spiritual, trying to sound wise, trying to convince others, and yourself, that you've arrived. But the more real you get, the more all of that becomes exhausting. You no longer want to be impressive. You want to be free. You want to be light, not as in happiness, but as in weightlessness, as in no longer carrying what was never yours. The stories drop. The self-images drop. The need to explain, to justify, to defend. Gone. What remains? Silence. Openness. Stillness that breathes. You no longer care if people understand you. You no longer chase meaning in every moment. You live. You breathe. You let things come. You let things go. You become space. And life moves through you. This is not disconnection. It is deep connection, without effort. You no longer need to hold anything, and so you can hold everything, fully, freely, tenderly. Even suffering becomes different. You still feel, you still break, but now you break open, not apart. You bleed truth. You hurt without story. You grieve without identity. And joy. Joy becomes quieter, not explosive, not dependent, just a subtle glow, a steady flame that flickers, but does not die. Because it is not based on circumstances, it is based on being. Enlightenment does not remove the human experience, it illuminates it. It does not make you better than others, it brings you closer to them, more compassionate, more available, because there's no longer anything in the way. You don't need to teach. You don't need to lead. You simply live as presence. And in that presence, others soften. Others remember. Not because you gave them something, but because your being reflected their own. This is the sacred paradox. Enlightenment is deeply ordinary. You chop wood. You carry water. You wash the dishes. But something is different. You're there, fully, not wishing you were elsewhere, not needing the moment to be different. And this is freedom, not some distant escape, not a dazzling event, but this breath, this step, this moment, seen clearly, lived fully, held gently. The you who thought it needed to reach something dissolves, and all that remains is awareness, here, now, open, watching, loving, being. That's the truth. The real meaning of enlightenment is not what you think, because it is not a thought. It is what remains when thought falls silent. It is not something you find. It is what you are when the noise ends. So stop chasing. Stop performing. Stop trying to impress yourself or anyone else. Sit. Breathe. Be still. Let life reveal what never left. You are not becoming enlightened. You are relaxing into what has always been true. You are not learning something new. You are unlearning what was never real. And the more gently you let go, the more clearly you'll see. Enlightenment is not elsewhere. It's not someday. It's here. It's now. It's you. Without your story. Just you, as you are. Already. Always. Now.